Hey everyone, and welcome to this beginner-centric guide to the items of the new patch 7.28. Let's get started right off the bat. Now, Fluffy Hat is a very interesting item as it is for 250 gold, 125 health. It, in some ways, is going to replace the Bracer for some heroes that want to have like some added sustain in lane. Offlaners often use Bracers in order to protect themselves, give them a little more sustain in lane, let them take a little more punishment, and Fluffy Hat might be able to do that. But the advantage to Fluffy Hat is that Fluffy Hat, unlike the Bracer, can actually be transformed or built into other things, including the Falcon Blade. The Falcon Blade, which takes the Sage's Mass Blades of Attack and a 225 gold recipe, will grant 150 health, 1.6 mana regeneration, and 10 additional damage. It's actually not that great in terms of like stats and everything like that, but the mana is actually pretty significant, and the fact that it takes up one backpack slot, or one inventory slot I should say, is notable. Not bad. It doesn't build anything from there, but overall it's a pretty decent item. Some heroes are using it to sustain in the early game. However, there could be something to be said with perhaps getting a better item in the early to mid game. Now, Orb of Corrosion is really interesting. Some heroes, like you're seeing in a lot of harassment-based heroes. What this is basically allowing heroes to do is it's taking advantage of both the Blightstone, Orb of Venom, and the Fluffy Hat. So you're getting the health, but you're also getting the slow, and that's the big one. The magic DPS is kind of insignificant, but the slow for melee heroes at 13% is significant. It's the main reason why the Orb of Venom is so valuable. With Monkey King being as prevalent in the meta, by the way, I will be doing a meta snapshot very shortly. You'll be seeing that. But with Monkey King being as prevalent as he is, you're seeing a lot of Orb of Corrosion just to allow additional harass. As I said, the magic DPS is not that significant, but the 3 armor reduction is. The 3 armor reduction is relatively significant, and when you add that to the slow, it provides for a lot of harassment potential. It is an expensive item, but it does a whole lot. It does a whole lot, especially in the early game. There's some, it's kind of niche for some specific heroes, like Ogre can build this to be very kind of harass-centric. As I said, you're seeing it on Monkey Kings and stuff along those lines as well. Witchblade, a new item. Witchblade's pretty interesting as well. Requires Blitz Knuckles, which is attack speed, Chainmail, which is armor, the Ogre Magi, which is intelligence, and then a 600 gold recipe. Now, one thing I should be mentioning for relatively new players is the idea of what a recipe entails. So when you see a 600 gold recipe, what that basically means is that it's basically a gap in build-up. So when you have, to build a Witchblade, you buy your Blitz Knuckles. No problem. You spend 1,000 gold, but you got that attack speed. You spend 500 something gold, and you get your Chainmail. You get your 6 intelligence through your Robe of the Magi. But with a recipe, it's 600 gold where you're not actually progressing. Like, there's no actual progression. It's just the completion of the item. So for that 600 gold, you're usually picking up like secondary, kind of benefits when the item and those the slot efficiency is taken into consideration. So with that being said, Witchblade, you're getting 35 attack speed, 12 intelligence, 6 armor, and 300 projectile speed. Now, those are good stats. It also has a passive that allows, when you attack, to apply a curse for 3 seconds that slows by 25% and deals your damage based on intelligent every second. That's actually pretty interesting. Like for someone like I mean Wind Ranger, seeing a slow by 25% is pretty interesting because it'll allow me to kind of keep that person in range. Any slow where like you kind of want to control the opponent's movement, like if you're focus firing as a Wind Ranger, that slow is beneficial. That slow is going to be beneficial in many different regards, and Wind Ranger is an intelligence-based hero, so that added damage is welcome, but when you're focus firing, you don't necessarily need it. But it is an interesting item. I can see this being very, very beneficial on someone like Silencer, for instance. Silencer would love this item. The increase in projectile speed, the additional armor, the intelligence, the attack speed. Silencer loves this, so perhaps this is an item that really benefits Silencer. The major question is for not too much more, you can build an Orchid. Orchid Malevolence. And the thing about that is that an Orchid has a better, active. It has an active. Basically, the Orchid will allow you to silence an opposing unit, which can be game-breaking in some circumstances, right? It can prevent a unit for like a Weaver from Sakuching away. It can prevent a Anti-Mage from blinking away, a Queen of Pain from blinking away. So for not too much more, you can get an Orchid. So this might be in a weird spot. Like, it looks like it's a good item, a niche item, which all items are pretty much niche. But its competition with Orchid perhaps puts an interesting spot. But if you're a Silencer main, you're going to want to be using this. I see potential in other heroes as well. How do I even say this? I'm going to say Gleipnir. There's no Gleipnir. There's no own it. But anyways, requires Maelstrom, Rod of Eidos, and a 700 gold recipe. You're getting the damage, you're getting intelligence, you're getting strength and agility. So it's in terms of like itemization, it's pretty wide. It also has the Chain Lightning proc of 160 damage, which does not pierce BKB. One thing I will also say is that it has an impressive active. It's in a 450 AoE, which is not small. It's actually pretty big. It'll release a lightning strike on each enemy unit and also ensnare them for 2 seconds and then proc the chain lightning for 220. And it has an impressive cast range. This is huge. Like, this is actually a really good item. That kind of like ensnaring effect for 2 seconds, restricting enemy movement's huge. Not only that, but you're doing damage with the chain lightning proc. This is a damn good item. It's been a good item. I've been testing it. It is fantastic. Really enjoy it. Really love it. Damn good item. Damn good item. And then we have the Mage Slayer. Mage Slayer has a cloak. Requires the cloak, which provides magic resistance, which you see applied here. The Blade of Alacrity, which you see applied there. Claymore, which you see here. And the 600 gold wet recipe. And the benefit of this is that it has the passive, which allows your attacks to place a 35% spell amplification debuff on a hero lasting 4 seconds. This is a little more niche. I can see it being valuable in someone like Ricky, for instance. Although Ricky has the benefit of using his smoke in order to prevent heroes from casting. But if they move out of the smoke and they're still being impacted by the debuff, they're doing less damage to Ricky. So Mage Slayer is a very, like, it's a mage slaying item. So like I like the hero that comes right to mind is Ricky for me. Might actually still be interesting on someone like Silencer. Ironically, we're talking about Silencer a lot this year, but it is a good item. Expensive though, but still a good item. Eternal Shroud requires the Hood of Defiance, a Voodoo Mask, and a 1,100 gold recipe. Pretty expensive. It's granting HP regeneration, spell, lifesteal, and creep lifesteal as well. Now, this type of, and you can activate it, of course, this is the big thing. You activate it for 400 magical damage, and that is converted into mana. So you basically absorb 400 magical damage, and it's converted into mana to fill your mana up. There's a couple of heroes that would benefit from this right off the bat. Bristleback dives right in. He's quill spraying. He activates this. He gets all his mana back up, so he can continue quill spraying. Even though that quill spray is physical damage, it is a spell. Therefore, you're going to be getting the lifesteal from that as well. You're getting HP regeneration. Fantastic. There's maybe potentially someone like Medusa might benefit from this to keep her shield up by basically absorbing this and then converting to mana to allow to benefit her shield. So a lot of interesting stuff here. I see it definitely being a Bristleback item. Bristleback would absolutely, I think this might be Bristleback core, honestly, looking at it, but we'll have to see. Helm of the Dominator can now be upgraded to level 2 by buying an Ultimate Orb, which is expensive, and a very expensive $1,600 recipe. It allows you to convert Ancients, which is very significant, and honestly, this is pretty huge. You're getting some stat and armor increases as well, which is fine. But the major thing here is being able to convert Ancients. This will enable Lycan to be kind of a force again. You'll see Helm of the Dominator being used on Lycan. Lycan's back, by the way. He's doing work in the meta. A very interesting item. One that I don't think is going to be relevant in new player and low MMR matches because heroes like Lycan and Chen and others, they're very micromanagement centric, and I don't think they're beginner friendly, and I don't recommend you use them as a beginner. So you're probably not going to be dealing with the Helm of the Dominator. But the Eternal Shroud, being a bristleback item, is a very beginner friendly item with a quick active that seems to have a lot of impact on the game. Now the 3 Blink Daggers. Now I'm going to kind of voice a little bit of concern here. How do I say this? I know a lot of people are really excited about these Blink Daggers. I get it, okay? They're cool. They seem really neat. But let's be honest. The only time that you're going to use these Blink Daggers is if you are so far ahead, completely annihilating the other team, because they are unbelievably expensive. You're looking at the Blink Dagger, a $2,800 Reaver, Eagle Song, or Mystic Staff, and then a $1,750 gold recipe. These are prohibitively expensive. Prohibitively expensive. But if you're an axe and you're farmed up and it's a 60-minute game and you go through overwhelming blink, it's going to be damn good because, you initiate, you're doing an 800 AoE, which is huge. This is a massive AoE effect. So you're doing movement slow, attack slow for 6 seconds, and equal damage based on strength, right? Like someone like Centaur Warrunner will destroy with this. Absolutely. You overwhelming blink, you stomp. Half their health is already gone. You've slowed them. You've stunned them. Total disaster for the other team, right? But it is prohibitively expensive. The Swift Blink as well. This one here actually doesn't seem as valuable. Like, I can't think of many heroes that would truly benefit from this. Of course, you know, blinking is beneficial, but the attack speed, the damage, the phase movement, like this is a little more. I don't see this being a like you. I don't think you should build this item. This one here on Centaur, you know, on Axe, like yes. This one, like. Who wants it? A drow? Maybe? The added attack speed, the phased movement, the damage? Maybe? But like, why are you blinking as a drow? So it's like one of those things where, like, usually you use blinks to initiate. Like Arcane Blink, you can use on someone like a Wind Ranger because it can allow her to blink into a better position for a shackle. Once you land at the destination, you got to reduce cast points. So your spell casting is much faster, reduce cooldown. So you blink, shackle, focus fire, and they're all done quickly because of the cast point, and you got your ability cooldown of 25%. So that, like, Blink Dagger, Arcane Blink on someone like Wind Ranger can make a little bit of sense. You know, someone like, do you even use Arcane Blink on someone like Crystal Maiden? You never be able to farm that. Like, you would never farm that, and you'd be better off getting just standard Blink, BKB or Glimmer in order to activate your ult. Like this, I cannot see this being used in many circumstances. I might be wrong. This one here, the Overwhelming Blink's the one that I can see being used. Because if you're an Axe or if you're like a Centaur, like those are two that come to mind. Even Slardar, right? If you're an initiating Slardar, you have your Vlads and you're blinking on guys, you're stunning them, this and that. This makes sense. These two, I don't feel them. I don't feel these two the way I feel this one here. So the Overwhelming Blink, I think it makes sense. I still think they're all too expensive. Like I've yet to see this in a game yet. Yet to see it in a game. I've played an ample amount of games since the patch. That's what I want. I want to play the patch before I analyze because I want to come in informed. And I've not seen a single one of these. Not once. Not once. Now, Wind Waker is pretty interesting as well because it is a fantastic item. This is a super, super good item. The ability to cyclone your allies cannot be understated. It is extremely valuable. It requires a Yule Scepter, a Mystic Staff, and a 1,600 gold recipe. Again, prohibitively expensive. But, like if you're someone like, man, who would even build this? It's hard to say. Like again, these items are so expensive and. Like, does Lena build this? I don't know if Lena builds this, because I think Lena's probably just better off with a Yule Scepter and then going into Aghanims or something along those lines. I don't think Lena builds this, honestly. There are heroes that can build this, of course. Heroes that use Cyclone as core function, but being able to cast it on allies is really beneficial. The problem is that like a position 5 or 4 will never be able to afford this. They'll never be able to afford this in a standard game. Like a standard game should last between 30 and 45 minutes, right? Once you get to the 45 to an hour in a little bit, then maybe you can do something. And the benefit of it is it requires a Yule Scepter, so you're likely to already have the Yule Scepter. But the Mystic Staff, like this is still almost 4k gold, like 3.5k gold that you're trying to make up just to get this item online. Like that is so expensive. So expensive as a 5 or a 4. So maybe as a 3 Lena, if you're mid Lena, right? Does someone like Queen of Pain? Would Queen of Pain use this? I don't think so, because it doesn't have the attack speed, doesn't have the it's a really interesting item. The ability to cyclone your allies is really valuable. But I don't know. I think this is still too expensive. I don't know if it'll actually be used. But there's some core things here being changed to like other core items. Let's talk about it quickly. So Aether Lens, the amount of mana being provided is reduced from 450 to 300. Aether Lens was basically like a ton of mana. It activated a whole bunch from Ogre Magi to Pugna and others. It basically allowed them to have unlimited mana at that point, so probably a needed adjustment. Soul Booster no longer provides the 10 magic resistance. The Octarine Core is a huge change. Okay, huge change. So the reduced no longer has a recipe, no longer has the magic resistance. However, it requires the Aether Lens instead of Voodoo Mask. So why that's so important is because Voodoo Mask had less benefit. Like it was one of those things where it's like, yes, Voodoo Mask and things that built into Voodoo Mask were good, but Aether Lens was a staple in so many builds for spellcasters that building into Octarine Core never made sense. Now, because Aether Lens is part of the recipe, you essentially have a path to build into Octarine Core. So, like someone like, a Core Lina, for instance, who builds Aether Lens, can get added sustain through Octarine Core. So, like this is a huge up. Like you look at this and you're like, that's not that big a deal. But it is a huge deal because spellcasters like Pugna and Lina, who rely on things like Aether Lens, can now build into Octarine Core later in the game by combining those items and still maintaining their benefits. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. Then you get the Bloodstone. I like this because you now basically get the lifesteal provided by the Voodoo Mask. I think it fits the lore of the Bloodstone a little better. Anyways, very good. You get an increase, so a buff to Echo Saber on the mana regeneration. And Silver's Edge was reworked. This is very significant. Now, Echo Saber can be disassembled. There are some things that can be disassembled. I should mention that as well. I'm going to do a video about this eventually. But like Aether Lens, you build Aether Lens by building Arcane Boots and then building the pieces of the Aether Lens. And then when you need the mana stone, what you're doing is you're literally disassembling your boots and then making Aether Lens, and then often using your brown boots to build another type of boots, whether it's Boots of Travel or Tranquils, because it saves you the 900 gold for Aether Lens, because you use your Arcane Boots for a bit, and then when you can convert to Aether Lens, you disassemble the boots. So disassembling is important. So you can disassemble Echo Saber, which is good, but the Silver's Edge now requires the Oblivion Staff. Okay, so it's a different requirement, which is fine. Then you have the bonuses changed, so it's basically 45 attack speed, 40 damage, 12 strength, 10 intelligence. We got some mana regen and attack speed, which is great. Okay. Sorry, this is what it was before. My apologies. And then now we get the 45 attack speed, 40 damage, 10 intelligence, 3 mana regeneration. So you're losing the strength, right? But you're gaining some mana regeneration there. And you're getting a major increase to the recipe to offset the fact that it's actually cheaper now because of the Oblivion Staff being the requirement, not the Echo Saber, because the Echo Saber is more expensive, okay? So it also has a cooldown reduction, which allows it to be used more frequently as an escape and an initiation. Very good. Ring of Tarrasque is gone. Rest in peace, Ring of Tarrasque. But the Heart of Tarrasque has been updated. It no longer requires the ring. The recipe cost has been increased, but we've seen some nerfs here with regards to health being reduced from 400 to 250. However, it no longer has regeneration out of combat, but it has a higher passive regeneration, which is good, and it also has the increase to the strength. I do not think this item is good yet. Sad face. Still sucks. Whatever. Prove me wrong, game. Prove me wrong. Holy Locket. Now it gains a charge every 15 seconds. Is that the buff the Holy Locket needed? I don't know, but maybe it did. It requires a fluffy hat and a headdress instead of a Ring of Tarrasque. That makes sense. Recipe cost reduced, which is fine because now you're getting fluffy hat and headdress. But what's important here is that when you get a recipe cost reduction and you're getting other items that build into it, again, it creates a situation where, you're building the Holy Locket, but you're getting gradually stronger the entire time because you're building items into it. And it provides an HP regen aura instead of just a personal regen. Good. Holy Locket, not pure garbage anymore. Is it still kind of pooey? I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to test it a little more here. Satanic no longer has a recipe, no longer provides status resistance, which sucks. That was a huge part of what Satanic was. Increased damage and increased Holy Rage. Now, this is actually kind of crazy. It's a major change to the way Satanic worked. The status resistance was huge for Satanic, but the increase in damage and unholy duration, that's pretty solid there. So you have Sange, so Sange and its upgrades, so the status resistance no longer stack. Makes sense. Heaven's Halberd has a reduction of 200 to its recipe cost, which is very significant. You have a regen amplification reduction to 24% and the status resistance down. Now, this is all great because Heaven's Halberd now will be you get it cheaper. Yes, you get a little less benefit from it, but the major benefit to Heaven's Halberd is it's active, the ability to disarm an opponent. So you're able to respond faster because it's cheaper in order to, someone needs to build a halberd, let's go. And you build it and you disarm that PA that's been destroying everyone the entire time. Makes a lot of sense. You're getting a status increase on Kea and Sange, which is great. You're also getting the same thing from Sange and Yasha, which is great. Scatty got nerfed a little bit. Scatty was too strong. And It had to get nerfed. It also goes along in the lines with some of the shards that are being improved, like, you know, like Terrorblade's shard. Like, Scatty's often built on someone like Terrorblade and other illusion heroes. So, with some of the benefits of the shards, Scatty had to get dialed back or else it was going to be completely disruptive. Drums of Endurance getting a charge count increase, which is fantastic as well. You know, that is greatly beneficial. It allows you to kind of use it more frequently. It's a huge buff. Like, the fact that you have literally a significant amount, well, 2 more charges of it before you'd have to buy the recipe again to recharge it is fantastic. It also requires the Windlace over Robe of the Ogre Magi and the Belt of Strength and the recipe. The Windlace is fantastic, so that's great. It gives you a better build up there, and you're getting an increased movement aura, which is great. Swiftment aura is fantastic, so drums are back, baby. Drums are back. Boots of Travel now sells your TP scrolls. It's basically just, this is like quality of life type stuff. Mask of Madness being reduced in effectiveness. This is kind of some of the ongoing hit to a lot of the position ones that were starting to really destroy people, like Juggernauts and Feastless Voids that would build Mask of Madness Fens and then just start laying waste to everybody. So that's what that is there. This just makes sense. The idea of using the active, the Overwhelm, actually activates the Bash. So you can't just immediately Abyssal and then stun lock somebody. It makes sense because Bash has an innate cooldown, so that's just a quality of life thing for people getting bashed. It is technically a nerf, but whatever. It's not that noticeable. It's just, that's the way it should have been in the first place. Blade Mail, this is actually a huge nerf to like someone like Spectre. Bristleback's impacted. Centaur's impacted. Blade Mail wasn't used as what it was intended to be. Blade Mail was supposed to be a defensive item that would kind of force people to not attack you, and instead what's happening now is that people are going to Blade Mail to farm faster, so they're getting aggro from like mobs and creeps, and basically Blade Mail is allowing them to just take that damage and then return it and farm faster. Like Spectre was using it to farm ancients faster. This had to do it. It had to happen because it offset the amount of farming that was happening. Recipe being improved, so now basically not improved. You lose the Gloves of Haste. You basically have to pay for the Gloves of Haste with recipe. This is a straight up nerf. It's a straight up nerf. You used to get the attack speed thanks to the Gloves of Haste. Now you're just spending the same amount of money and you just get a recipe. So you're losing a benefit. Glimmer Cape nerf. Necromicon buffed up, cooldown reduction, and you're getting now an Archer speed, movement aura. Remember I talked about Lycan getting that Helm of the Dominator love and Lycan getting a little more relevant? Well, here we go. It just continues. This is huge. Someone like Wind Ranger gets punished by this, just Javelin damage reduction, which impacts a lot of things. Yes, you're getting your proc chance increase, but overall, a net loss for Javelin. Although the proc chance increase benefits Maelstrom, which is fantastic. Okay, that'll come into play later. Demon Edge, minor nerf. MKB, rest in peace. This was one of the strongest items in the game. Is it pure garbage yet? I still have to test it. It's like heavily nerfed though, heavily nerfed, and basically what's happening now is that it's encouraging people to move away. Like if you're a Wind Ranger, do you still go MKB or do you actually go into Maelstrom? Because once you go Maelstrom, you have the option of going like Muljonor, all these names, or Gleipnir or whatever it was called, right? You have a choice. I'm butchering these names. But Monkey King Bar was like an absolute staple, must buy. So Wind Ranger's win rate has actually dropped because of this nerf here. This is a massive nerf. This is like a complete destructive nerf. 30 damage off the top. It hurts. It hurts. It's a huge nerf. But you know what? Maelstrom getting a little bit of buff. Majolner getting a little bit of buff. You're getting a little bit of a nerf here on Deso, which is fine. Rapier getting a little bit of nerf. Armlet, it's not bad. You know what? You get some little bit of added damage here and you get a little reduction to the amount of health being drained. So Armlet a little more reasonable. It's a decent item, we'll say. Hood of Defiance, right? He still has the Barrier Active, now cheaper. No longer has a 300 gold recipe, which is great. Pipe of Insight was being bought like just on Snap purchase decision, so it's a little more expensive. Vlad's is great, yes! Big change to Vlad's, now requires a buckler, which is fine, increases its cost, but you're also getting the armor aura, which I think is a big deal, and a minor reduction to the amount of mana being generated, which is fine, because by the time you get Vlad's, the mana generation is not as important. I'll take the armor all day long. So now you're getting Chainmail, you're getting Mech, which requires Chainmail instead of the Buckler, no longer provides the armor aura, and you're getting a mana cost reduction by 25 and a reduction in its cost, which is great because it enables Guardian Greaves to be cheaper as well. Fantastic nerf to, okay, again, this ongoing thing about position 1 melee heroes getting nerfed. Quelling Blade getting 2 damage off the top here. Now, once you start to add this all up, right, the reduction damage on like Faceless Void's bash, and then you get reduction damage on just their overall auto attacks. Then you get the Quelling Blade being reduced. All these things add up to less farm efficiency in the laning stage, right? Which prevents them from snowballing earlier. Orb of Venom, basically cost reduced in order to allow for the Orb of Corrosion to be more reasonable, but also a minor slow decrease to 13%, so it's not too prohibitive. Another nerf to Ring of Regen. I used to run 2 Ring of Regens on Ricky in some of my offlane builds. Rest in peace, Ring of Regen. I think this killed it. I don't think I'm going to build it anymore. I think this is deep enough now that it's not worth building. Sage's Mask getting a minor buff. What are you going to do? Enchanted Mango getting a minor decrease. Makes sense. Voodoo Mask getting retooled. Now it's cheaper, but it also has less effect, which is fine because it's being incorporated into multiple new items here. Medallion of Courage getting buffed up. Additional mana regeneration. You're getting a cooldown increase as well, but the duration is being increased as well, which is fantastic. So you can kind of set it and forget it for a little longer. It's almost double the amount of time because realistically, like, you didn't really need to change it that frequently. So it might be a little easier for newer players to manage, which is great. And of course, because the Medallion of Courage is being impacted by that, Solar Crest, its step up, is also being corrected. Being kind of given that same change as well. The Spirit Vessel getting a mana regeneration increase from 1.5 to 1.75. You're getting Scepter of Divinity, has mana reduction as well. It was being built just as a mana kind of thing anyway, so that makes sense. Vanguard being able to be disassembled is a pretty decent little feature there. Vanguard's not popular right now, but being able to disassemble it and use it for only a set period of time, then build out of it, is beneficial. Crimson Guard getting a buff. This is once again, you're seeing continued changes. Position 1 heroes getting kind of not necessarily nerfed, but reduced in strength. Position 3 heroes getting amplified in strength. So guys like Axe and Centaur are getting stronger, and people like, Spectre are getting weaker. Faceless Void are getting weaker. So that safe lane matchup is becoming a little more challenging for these carries. And I think you're going to see a lot of carries having a hard time in these early parts of the patch because they're not ready for these changes. Okay, so ignoring Ancient Creeps on Radiance, no longer ignoring Ancient Creeps, Radiance getting buffed will actually impact the Ancient Creeps. Refresher Orb, this is huge. So having a 300 mana cost instead of 375 will allow you to build a Refresher Orb earlier. Because think about it, if you're a Tide Hunter, you Ravage, you use that mana, you Refresh, you've used that mana, and then you don't have any mana left to Ravage again. So what'd you Refresh for? So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, Refresher Orb needed something, and that extra, space for the mana makes a difference. It allows you to activate Refresher Orb earlier in a game when you might not have as much mana to spare. You're also getting an update on Dagon here, which is pretty relevant. Now requires a Staff of Wizardry, a Crown, and a 1300 recipe, which is great. And of course, it upgrades just like it always has. Overall, very good item. Nyx Assassin getting buffed as well, so perhaps we're going to see more benefits for Dagon. Is Dagon back? I don't know. We'll see. Claymore getting a bonus damage reduction, but also a cost reduction. This is basically just to allow for some of the other items it combines into to be kind of cheaper as well. Nullifier, a criminally underused item. It has its projectile speed increased. It actually is still like a relatively close item. Like, you're not shooting the Nullifier. So it's interesting that they decided to increase the projectile movement speed. Reduction in spell cost for Shiva's Guard is one of those prohibitively expensive items. And then you have Weaver, Eagle Song, and Mystic Staff. The cost being, Mystic Staff being increased in cost, and the other two being brought down. So everything is 2,800, and this goes back to those Blink Daggers. Anyways, guys, quick patch analysis here for the items. I hope it helped you guys. A lot of information here, I know. If you have any questions, let me know below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and a very special thank you to all of our wonderful subscribers. We'll see you in the next video.